up, guys? So this might be a somewhat surprising discussion, but there is a very good reason why we should not use gold as money. And very simply, that reason is because the supply of gold has already been consolidated by certain people in the world. And if we use gold as money, guess what? They can basically cause artificial shortages, which will manipulate the value of said money, just like certain commodities or other items in the world are, manipulated, kind of like diamonds. I hear there's a bunch of diamonds. They just like to corner the market, like to create these artificial shortages and, cause the price to go up. And I can describe that very simply with this. So I made videos on this, talk about relative value. The value of money really comes from how much stuff people are willing to trade for it. So like per ounce of gold, let's just say per gram of gold, people will be trading so much stuff for it. So it'll have a relative value to stuff. This much gold for this much stuff. And that's really where the value of money comes from, how much stuff people want to trade for it. That's where the value of anything comes from. If you're trading two different types of stuff, how much of this stuff you want to trade for that stuff, and how much, there's just relative values all established. I mentioned this, you can use gold or money as a translation factor to gauge the value of goods and services to each other, just because they all have a relative value to gold. So per unit of gold, there's a certain amount of stuff, whatever that stuff is, that people will trade for however much gold, and they all have a certain relative value to gold, so you can kind of gauge their relative value to each other based on how much gold, or how much gold you can trade for, how much you have to trade per unit of gold. Anyways, so there is a supply of gold and there's a demand for it, and the demand comes in the way of people offering goods and services for it. So with the supply, there's a cumulative amount of gold on planet Earth, but there's only so much available, actively being traded and offered. You could, just a random number right here, you could say that 90% is over in people's safe deposit boxes and stuff like that. You could say about 10% roughly, it's just a total guess, okay, about 10% roughly is actively being traded on the market. So with that being said, there's only so much of an available supply, and that's what really matters. Like I said, artificial shortages. And I don't know how much of the gold is consolidated in the hands of a few. I really have no idea. I don't know the details, but I'm sure, from what I understand, yeah, all the gold's been kind of, consolidated by certain people. So it would be unwise to use it as money, because naturally they can cause changes in the supply, which would cause fluctuations in the value. People using it as money is going to kind of cause some stuff. It's not as bad as using fiat money that banks just create just print. It's not nearly as bad as that, but you'll still have this thing going on where they could manipulate it. And two, if the artificial shortage is, effective enough, then the value of that gold will be really high. And then these people who have already consolidated the entire supply, they will be rewarded by being able to trade little bits of the entire supply that they have for, a lot of stuff. And that's kind of, I'm guessing the people who have consolidated it, I'm guessing they're probably some of the same people who have messed up other parts of the economy. So I don't think they should be rewarded. You know what I mean? I think certain financial people in the world are very, very smart, and they know what's important to get your hands on. They know what a valuable asset is. They see that gold's cheap, they're gonna buy up the whole supply. It's just smart, because one day people might go back to gold and do exactly this. And so they are smart. They're smart investors, you might say. They understand probably how money works, and naturally they want to buy up the supply. Look, you could buy gold all day. You could be rewarded just the same. Anybody can. But generally speaking, overall, we might not want to use gold because of this situation. The same thing with certain any other asset. If somebody already owns the entire supply, might not be the best idea to use it as money because they got a monopoly on it almost, you might say. You know, a majority control over whatever asset it is. You know, people talk about these cryptocurrencies, and they have these things they call whales in the markets. Who knows who those people are? They probably it could be these bankers that just print off money, boom, 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 buy a bunch of this currency, buy this one. They're gonna buy it all when it's like, you know, super cheap. And then when people is exactly what I'm talking about. Once people come to use it, actually I didn't even talk about that, did I? I talked about it in a lot of other videos. But there's a supply of the money, and basically there's a demand for it by way of people offering goods and services, stuff. And basically the more people that start to use it as money, the more competition there will be in the way of people offering stuff, and thus its relative value will go way up. I kind of assumed that was implied, but hopefully if it wasn't, that clarified it. But yeah, so this is one reason it's still better than the fiat currencies, because the fiat currencies are just straight up printed, and the supply is just totally crazy. Like, not only is it printed, but the interest rate on the loans that are given on fiat currencies totally affects how much people will borrow, and thus how much will come into the economy and go out. And it's just not the way to go, man. It's just there's so many better options for things to use as money. It's almost silly that we're still using fiat currencies. And this is like 90% of what I try to, you know, teach people on my website. It's stupid. There's way better things to use as money. Why would you use, you know, it's like if I started printing money, why would you use my money? You know, like, there's way better stuff to use. What's a better thing to use? You could say gold is better than fiat, but silver might be better because I don't think the entire supply is consolidated. I think the supply is, you know, pretty dispersed throughout people's hands. I think there's multiple things people can use the money. I also suggest this thing I call it the new monetary system. Have the government print money to pay for public works. That way, if money's going to be printed by somebody, you know, it's going to benefit everybody by being spent or directly traded for things that benefit everybody, public works and stuff like that. So that's also a good option. I think we should do that state-wise, you know, like per state. Every state have their own little money, no problem. You want to come from Alabama to Texas, all you got to do, boom, trade your money for this money, no problem. You can do business in Texas. Very simple. We do the same thing country to country. Very simple. So that's really my suggestion. I think people can, at the end of the day, trade their stuff for whatever they want. They can directly trade goods and, you know, stuff for stuff, goods and services for other goods and services. That's just bartering. People do that all day. Or they can trade for money and then trade the money for stuff. It's all just trading. It's just that's all economics is really. It's just trading. And, you know, this is just a meta scale, you know, analysis, you might say, what happens with certain supplies, certain amount of people, and stuff like that. It's all just trading when it comes down to it. But yeah, that's one, you know, caveat with using gold as money. I still think it's much better than using these dumb fiat currencies. I really do. Unless they're government printed. A lot of people think the Federal Reserve notes are government printed. No, Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank. Sorry to burst your bubble on that one, but yeah. So, you know, that's just one caveat with using gold as money, but still better than fiat money. And I'm not saying that we really shouldn't use it. I'm just saying it's just one reason why we shouldn't, and, you know, that's not going to stop anybody. It's not. Gold's going to be around forever. People are going to be trading it. It's going to have value. If it's not used directly for money, it's going to be some type of asset that people, it's what I call an investment vehicle, and it doesn't depreciate physically, so it's going to stick around, and it's just going to have, until the whole like world changes, you know, it's going to, those remnants of the past where it had value are just going to be stuck in people's brains, and they're always going to it's going to have some intrinsic value. Not really intrinsic, but like I said, the value is really how much stuff you want to trade for it. But it's going to have some type of, you know, natural place in, you know, the heart of humanity, you might say. And so yeah, I think it'll be around for a very long time until, like I said, the entire world changes. Maybe eventually people understand the true nature of money, the true nature of all these assets, how they don't really have, look, I made videos called that talks about how the stock market is basically a Ponzi scheme. It's like a bubble, straight up, because all it is investors bidding up the price. There's no, it's all just how much money they're willing to trade for it. Once people understand the true nature of these assets, gold's just a rock. It's good for what? Like superconductors, stocks. Unless you own the entire company, it's just another investment vehicle, and its value comes from how much money people are willing to trade for it. And like I said, it's like a Ponzi scheme. You gotta watch that video, but until the world changes, yeah, man, I think gold's gonna be around for a while. So I'm not like really saying we shouldn't use gold. It's gonna be around. Believe me, it's gonna be an investment vehicle. Its value's gonna go up and down based on how many people are trying to get their hands on it. It's gonna be manipulated, not maybe intentionally, but its value is gonna be affected by investors investing and cutting the supply. Making offers for it, just the supply and demand is going to be fluctuating throughout time, and that's part of what I call the investor cycle too. You can, if I have that available, you can watch it. If not, it's probably in some course that I offer. And yeah, so that's just one caveat with using gold as money. Something to think about. Like I said, better than the fiat currencies, but still, I think there's a better option, which is what I call the new monetary system. But just simply the government printing money to, spend on public works. And if someone's gonna print money and spend it on something, it might as well be the people. You know what I mean? Something for everybody, something that benefits everybody. And you can watch that video, and I'm gonna leave it at that because I think that's good for now. Anyhow, I'll talk to you guys later, and be safe, take it easy, and peace out.